we can get rocking. I thought I'm probably has never been as excited to end a week and start a new one. And as you're getting to know me, you'll learn, I love being right where I'm at, right where my feet are, and I try to stay there. So last week was tough to have everybody want to go take a trip back down memory lane, but more than anything, I just love being in the moment, right where we're at week to week and staying in it. So definitely glad to get rocking again this week. So it was good to see the style and attitude that we wanted to play get recaptured, and so I was certainly pumped about that, all the way through. But glad it opened up to you guys to get rolling.
Where will you keep the ball that you got last night, and how much, even though you don't look back, how much did it mean to get that ball, and how the players reacted?
You know what? I was totally unprepared for that, and it meant a lot. And I would say, when you get fired mid-year, it's hard, and you're embarrassed, you're pissed, but probably the hardest thing is not being on a team. And so to have maybe that moment come at the end after a game, I definitely wasn't ready for it, but man, what a good feeling to know that there's a whole army of people that got your back, and that's one of the best feelings there is in football, when you're part of a team, knowing that, hey man, like, we got your back and we're here with you and fighting. And so probably the hardest part when you're not coaching is not being on a team. And so for somebody like myself, that I love being part of a team, so when you're not, it definitely gets in the way. So it was a very cool moment, and one that I was taken back by. So I don't think you guys saw what I said after, so I'm pretty sure that's why it was cut pretty quick. So I can't. After, I could definitely share. The clean version. I'm so darn excited. So that was good. So and there's some really tough guys. So that's we'll leave it at that. Go ahead.
But the way your team had your back, you don't have Gregory, and then you have to make some adjustments, and that may be one of the finest performances you guys have had all season long.
And I thought, like where sometimes people may not know who some of the guys are going in, but within our locker room, within our meeting room, not only do we know who they are, we know what to expect, what the standard is, and how it's going to go down. And that's a strong feeling, like knowing that we have real belief and trust in guys to do that job. And I thought one of the players that really jumped out to me, certainly not somebody that's not well known, but was Jordan Lewis. And I thought his intensity, his ability to bring it, he just captured that style. I thought right early from the game, as I went down from halftime, I said, man, Jay Lou is on it. And I just felt his aggressiveness. And so to have him get an interception at the end, I thought that was, but he was the one that set it off to me. And what a good feeling that it's not always one person, to know there can be a number of guys that can set it off.
You talked about how much length is important to you in your secondary. Why did you want Jordan on the team even without his length, and what does he continue to show?
Well, I think what jumped out to me was his competitiveness. He was so urgent in and out of the breaks. I thought that's really the definition of a slot player, because so many times when you put a wide receiver from outside and you put him inside, there's option routes. So in other words, you have a certain leverage on me. Well, it's going to be hard for me to break outside, so how can I break back inside? You can imagine how difficult that can be to defend. So you have to have excellent quickness and tackling ability, because the nickel almost plays like in some linebacker roles at times. And so those were the attributes that I saw from him to say, man, what a good role he's going to have. But I just felt his intensity, his urgency in the game, and you never know who's going to be the one to kind of set it off. But I thought J.K. had a good hit on a play down in the red zone that, against Gage, that, was a good hit, kind of turned it. But Jordan, I just felt his urgency, intensity all day.
What do you think was the key for you guys to contain Matt Ryan? He's obviously played a lot of good football. That's the lowest passer rating he's ever had in his career. What was the key for you guys to stop him?
You're right, and the guy's a fantastic competitor. I think against any really good passer, you have to somehow disrupt timing. And there's a lot of ways you can do that, or rerouting a receiver, or getting pressure on a quarterback. But that's always the biggest challenge, when you're, facing a team, is how are we going to affect him? Sometimes it can be, hey, we got a really good disguise, and you just make him hold it for a half a count longer, and then some of the timing can get off. So getting the timing and the rhythm off was a big piece of it. But for guys like a Jordan who can, reroute somebody and still get vision on the quarterback, that was a big piece of it. But the guy's a elite competitor, and so we were definitely fortunate for us also to get our hands on a few balls and have some pass breakups. I thought the contested catches were kind of the story within the game, how many pass breakups there were and close defended plays. So when you play a good quarterback, you better be able to guard them close. And that was kind of way back where we said how much we had to change some in the system because there were just too many completions. So I think a day like that showed the contested catches and how important those are.
Dan, when was the last time you had all three of your starting corners get an interception in the same game?
You know what? Somebody asked me that yesterday. I just don't. I don't know that. That's. I think that's pretty rare. You've had games where you had three and stuff, but I don't know if it's been in the corner side of it. So one thing I can say is how impressed I am about them. Their willingness to work at it, and you see it at practice, where they go. But to have just those three, really leading the way on some of the interceptions, I think it's pretty remarkable. And now, how can we add to that with others and forcing fumbles? But that's I can't think of a game offhand that three different players, in the secondary at corner specifically had one.
There's a word that often gets associated with Jordan Lewis, and that's scrappy. Even though he's not the biggest player in defense by any stretch, he's the shortest, and he still has this intensity with the way he kind of carries himself. Do you agree with that? And how does that manifest not just on yesterday during a game, but over the course of a preparation week?
Yeah, I would say he's way past scrappy. And the reason I say that is this guy is a real competitor in terms of every which way you go. You see it on the practice field, in the meeting room of getting ready. He's such an accountable guy, too, to say, like, he's down for any challenge. So I just love how, physical he is, how competitive he is. Like, he doesn't know that he's, smaller, shorter in stature. Like, he just knows, like, this is how I play, and I go after it. So there's definitely players like that, not only on our team, but around the league that maybe not fit a profile, but you better not overlook a player like that because they know how to play. And I think Jordan's a great example of that. His speed, his quickness, his football smarts, his toughness, all those things kind of, wrap together and say this is the ideal player that you want playing in the slot.
What did you think of Armstrong's game yesterday, and what was he showing you in off-season and training camp before he had the injury?
Yeah, I really thought before he had the injury, I said, man, we are, going to make real strides here. And so when he got set back, he worked extremely hard to get back. And I think it probably took a game or two to trust that, hey, this ankle's strong enough, I can do it, I'm ready to go. And so for him to come back, I think he was ready to take on the challenge. Like, we know how important having Randy here and Lawler here. So, there's a moment to say, all right, I'm ready to follow me, I'll take the lead on this one and go. And he's certainly capable of doing that. And then to have the play, I thought, on special teams and to be on the side to go for the block, it was just a textbook example of how to block a punt for a young kid who's watching, where you don't want to miss and you rough the punter. So there was no chance he was going to rough it. I thought just a textbook example. But I was pleased with him. He was really active all day, from in the run game and in the pass rush. So that was his best performance of the season for sure.
In a general sense, not so much what happened yesterday, but how do you think your secondary has been playing so far?
Well, I think what we always are trying to do is to say, where are we trying to find the improvement? Where can we find to go to get better? And I think that's one of the things that we saw to say, all right, how do we, find ways to improve? And I thought where it really showed up in this game was in the contested catches. And I think Joe Witt and Al Harris and these guys have been working extremely hard at it. And so not just at the ball side of things, but the scheme and tweaking to go. And so the more they play together, the better we're going to get. And I think that's a big piece of this thing. They're just now, continue to work and develop and grow. And I'm thinking that's going to continue as we're going. Like, by no means are we as good as we're going to get. And I think the secondary's definite proof of that.
You got Kelvin Joseph some snaps in dime, I think, for the first time this season. I don't know how many players you're up to that you've used on defense, but now with him and Tristan getting a look there, how did he show for you in that limited time that he was playing?
And he got a few the week prior as well defensively, but to have some more plays in this one. And sometimes you get on to special teams and you just show you compete, and I think you guys probably saw his speed and felt it when he was outside on punt and on punt return. And so that kind of carries over. You're in the game, you're fighting and battling, and then we played some man-to-man with him, we played some zone with him. So for him to now gain that experience, that was definitely needed, and he's growing as it is. So it's kind of the same thing. After the injury, it took a while to come back. He worked hard on the rehab process, but now I think you're seeing his full ability and potential and all that things start to come together.
There seemed like much fewer than 14 missed tackles this most recent game.
Yes. Yeah, that was a big jump. Yeah, 3 times as less on the missed tackles.
So
We're not good with math, so is that like
Yeah.
3?
Yeah, it's 4, 3, 4, 3.5. So, but it was such a big difference. And I think what sometimes can happen, and I think I spoke about this a week ago. There were too many one-man tackles, and I'm not going to say every fit in the run game was just right in this one, but because of the relentless nature of the energy, if I miss on a fit, you're right there to come clean it up. And I think that's, to me, where we're at our best, when we're seeing relentless effort and finishing over the top and having a lot of players play like we do. It allows you to play in that style. So we do play a lot of players, but I love the relentless nature they're playing with, and we were setting our jaw to recapture our style and attitude that we wanted to play with, and there wasn't going to be much that was going to take us away from that.
The offense you face coming up has been at the top of the league for the last couple of years.
Yep.
I know you haven't dived into them, but just can you talk in general, just the difficulties of facing that offense and what makes them so explosive?
Well, I think two things. One, they've got an excellent scheme and unique ways to feature players and deep routes and screens, and they'll work the whole field horizontally and vertically, so you've got to defend everywhere. And then the second element, against mobile quarterbacks, first play begins, and then, okay, I'm going to get outside the pocket, and they're exceptional at throwing the ball down the field on the run. And so I think with this quarterback, wherever he is on the field, he can get it to somebody. And so that kind of strong arm to do that. But we'll have to be exceptional in our, we call it plaster, but when the second play begins, we're going to have to be outstanding at that part. Now, fortunately for us that we do a lot of that, against our offense with Dak and Kellen and the guys, that's a big piece of it. But you can't ever take that for granted. Those 6 or 8 plays that happen in a game where the quarterback's outside the pocket, maybe start as a quick throw, and then, man, this is going to be a 6 or 7, second play.
When you talk about contesting catches and defensive back.
Mind if I scoot back just a little bit?
Yeah, that sun starts
Yeah.
right in your eyes there. But when you're playing a team like Kansas City, where you've got guys like Kelsey and Tyreek, who are so dynamic, after
Yeah.
they make the catch, you can shed tackles and stuff. What's the fine line there for the defensive?
Yeah, well, I think one, when a play happens and you break down, not when a play breaks down, when a quarterback gets outside the pocket, not by design, there's certain routes that come back to the quarterback, and you'd better stay in your coverage. Often you can lose it and start to look back to the quarterback. If you do that, he'll find the open player and rip it. So I think what we would say is eye discipline is super important in this one, to make sure, man, if you're on a cover, you plaster and you guard your guy all the way through the end of the play. If you think the play's over, it's not. Let's make sure that thing, until that play's over, you got him.
General fan might look at this game and say, this is going to be high scoring. But as an expert, would you say, no, this has to be a defensive battle in order for us to take care of our business?
I think every week it feels a little different, and the preparation doesn't change, but the matchups do, and who to defend and how to guard. And there's definitely been some games I've had it, through my career that's, okay, this one's going to be close and it's wide open. And so that's kind of the unusual nature of our league. But at the end of it, this is one that you plan on it going down to the end. It's that kind of competition, that kind of game. And so that's, I think, how you have to prepare for this one. And when the moments come in these situations, could be at the, midway part of the fourth quarter, it could be a 2-minute at the end of the half. You better be on point on those situations. I have a sense games like this against two good teams, when they battle, usually comes down to the end. And when you go in thinking that way, you're ready to get it on as long as it takes, 4 quarters, overtime, whatever it takes.
Could we see Michael Moore at the edge this week just because of the importance to get the pressure on him?
Yeah, there's no question that the pressure, it has to be. And anytime you face a good QB, when you can, you do that. But that'll be something that we'll look at, through the week. We've, obviously playing at linebacker, and he's down some, but we're just getting started, as far as the preparation goes on that part.
You talked about how being in the box allows you to have some of that clarity of thought that you might not have on the sideline. Was there anything you learned yesterday being in the box about closing your chapter in Atlanta that you might not have been able to last?
Wow. Well, that's a good one. I would say, I think I said earlier, coaches, they throw a lot of cliches out about adversity, and I would say most of them are really true, I think. But anyone who goes through adversity, I think you'd also know it stings a lot. And so what I probably realized maybe after the game, all week I just said our team, and I say our team, our defense needed to recapture our style and our identity about how we love to play. But I think probably afterwards, in the locker room, I probably realized how much I needed to be a part of that win too. And so to be a part of it felt good, and to hear, Mike do that and the team, have my back, that was a great feeling, and I probably didn't know I needed that, but to be honest with you, I probably did.
When you look at Mike's efficiency as a pass rusher, the rate at which he generates pressure is about as high as you'll find around the league. When you see a guy who's generating that pressure at such a high clip, is it reinforcement that you're using them correctly because you're picking your spots and dialing up in an efficient way, or is it just we need to dial up more because when we're sending him, he's getting there?
What an awesome question. I guess, is that saying I'm doing a good job, or Dan, you are a dumbass? I kind of just go on the feel and what we need to go and how to feature the guys. But at the end of the day, we do try to feature him on the things he does best. And so pass rushing is also blitzing. And so we do, like anybody who's watching, you'll see him, he's going vertical a lot as a linebacker too. So that's why when the question was, asked earlier about defensive end, it's kind of both spots. But at the end of it, we're just trying to find guys that, how do they do their stuff well when they're in their spots to do it, and he can guard guys, and we need him to do that too. So, yeah, I didn't know about the pass rush rate. I guess I kind of used my own rating on that one. All right, you guys good? All right, we'll see you next week. All right, have a good one.
Friday. What's up?
Good. Talking to Dak last week, he was just talking about how really throughout his time here is when his footwork is not right is when he tends to be a little inaccurate. Was he able to get back to this in the days leading up where the calf didn't allow him to do that going into that first game back?
I just thought this week he had a really good week in practice, and obviously it translates to the game. And he was really good fundamentally. He was on point, worked through progressions really well. I thought he just played a really decisive game.
With Connor McGovern, because it kind of just
You guys like Connor, don't you?
Yeah. Well,
I like Connor too. Yes, I do.
I mean, he's lined up all wide. He's in the eye, So is it one of those things where you tried something and then he was able to handle it, so you're like, maybe we'll try a little bit more. Like, how did that progress to where it is now?
I certainly think Connor's handled a little more volume each and every time. Obviously, we probably started with a little bit of a fullback thing against Philly just for a couple plays, and it's certainly expanded to a few more things. And I think that's credit to him that he can handle some of these versatile things, because he's getting ready to potentially play guard and center each and every week, and at the same time, he's got these other little roles and packages that he has that are available to us, and so he does an awesome job. He's a part of it as well, having conversations, talking about things. There's a few things. Okay, Connor, maybe let's hold on that a little bit, but he's got a lot of ideas.
When does he start working on the jugs machine?
Oh, he thinks he can do just about everything on the field right now, so we'll see.
When did you come up with the idea of thinking of putting him out wide in that bunch pattern out there?
Just brainstorming throughout the week. Early in the week, we were just looking for a screen opportunity. Felt like maybe putting him out there. Hadn't done that yet, and just get the ball to CD out in space. Usually good things happen for him.
Speaking of that position, how concerned are you about the number of penalties Connor Williams is picking up and his play overall?
I think just overall as an offense, penalties is kind of one of our things. We'd certainly like to play cleaner games. We've had a few games where penalties have just been creeping up higher and higher for whatever those circumstances are. There's obviously different circumstances in each game, but we just got to clean up those things, and then turnovers. If we can play a clean game, I feel like we got a great chance. Obviously, I think Connor's got some growth opportunities in the penalty world. Obviously, he's probably had a few too many, but hopefully those are things we can learn upon and get better.
Is that technique with him, or just he should be smarter than that with some others?
I think there's a combination. Obviously, there's technique things you can always look at, and sometimes there's a time to know that maybe we've reached the point in the play where linemen want to always finish the block every single time, and sometimes there's a point where maybe there's a let-off opportunity there, and we'll still end with a good play.
When you hit late in the game, you're up big, and you bring Cedric out in the Wildcat and do some things. Was there ever a time we say, all right, I want to show a bunch of stuff to get everybody for our next opponents to think about the 58 things that we may never do again? Or how do you balance all that?
Yeah, I would say there's a time and place for everything. Felt comfortable with presenting that play that particular time, and we're close. End up getting kind of a goofy hold, and I feel good.
Mike was telling us a little while ago that he thinks the timing of knowing when to call those types of plays is just as, if not more important than the actual deception of it. Where do you get your sense of timing with that?
It's a great question. I think sometimes there are plays that you kind of got to let marinate for a few weeks, and you're kind of working on and trying to find the right time and place, and sometimes there's patience associated with that. And then I think usually, the entire team usually finds that right time. I think we usually have a pulse of each other that, okay, this is the time, anticipate this call if we get to this particular spot, and then let's go for it. And I think we're constantly talking through those things as a staff, with the players a part of it, and we like that aspect.
How deliberate are you when you're assembling a game plan to have unscouted looks, just plays, concepts that your opponent hasn't seen before?
I certainly think there's a huge value of that. Again, we've talked about there's only so much time in a week with practice and preparation aspects with regards to that, and so the more we can put on film, obviously, I think benefits us, because defense have to pick and choose what they're going to focus on, and each week, maybe we have a little flavor here and there, but I think the key is keeping it concise, keeping it tight, still keeping our identity of who we are. We're not going to turn into Gadget City, but you want to still be able to establish some run game when you want to, throw it when you want to, do what we do best, and I think they complement each other really well.
What are your emotions when you're watching Dak Prescott kind of truck a DB to score a touchdown on a run. Are you excited because the way he's kind of, I guess, setting the tone in a way, or are you kind of nervous?
I would say that's the way Dak's wired, and we're going to trust him. Obviously, we thought Sprinkle was going to score a touchdown. Obviously, there was maybe a little something going on there on this jersey. I'm not sure what that's called, but we thought we were going to get a touchdown pass out of it, and we're going to trust Dak. We're going to trust Dak. He's going to handle those situations well, and we'll be just fine.
With all the creativity and the plays that you've used, Kansas City is a team that has pulled its share of plays out of the way pass or the way back. How much have you looked at them and seen things that they've done and kind of incorporated some of that with Andy Reid and RPM?
I would say definitely when you watch them, they're a team that shows up a lot on film as far as a team doing creative things that over the course of the last few years. They're as good as anyone in the league, and they do a great job of it. They time it up well, call it at the right time, and they're definitely one you watch.
With these games coming up in a short time frame, and it's two unfamiliar opponents, could you talk about when the staff or quality control started work on these two upcoming opponents?
Chase, Kyle, Eric, Jeff, all the guys could kind of do some of the early scouting. Those guys started a week or two ago, just preparing for this, just so because these next coming 12 days they happen fast, and as much as we can, guys kind of behind the scenes are prepping as much as they can, and then hopefully we can streamline this thing and go. And fortunately for us, we've done this, I think, every year. I've been here since 2016, I think, was our first year when we did it up in Minnesota on the second Thursday. And since then, we've done it every year. And so I feel comfortable with it. It's obviously a goofy aspect of our schedule, but we've done it each year, and I feel comfortable.
How do you balance when you're watching some of that stuff, you're going over some of that stuff, and maybe some of the earlier stuff Kansas City wasn't playing as well as they played last night, and then how much do you balance, like, well, maybe we need to focus more on just what they did most recently?
I think it's important to watch as much of the whole season as you can to see the flow that the defense has taken. Obviously, there's certain things that happened early in the year. It feels like for everyone a part of the NFL, early September feels like it was forever ago. And so you want to watch those things, see where they were, see maybe what adjustments they made a conscious decision to make, and we'll see how their season plays out. Obviously, we're still early in this process, but we'll watch these guys. They're playing some good football right now. They're playing good complementary football on offense, defense. Special teams is making plays. So they're doing a really good job.
Did you try to get a sneak peek of the game last night, or did you try to stay in your routine of when I see the Chiefs, I see the Chiefs?
No, you tend to, especially when you play the noon game, you get a chance to watch Sunday Night Football. It worked out perfect. It was the Chiefs, so you got a chance to watch a little bit of them. Didn't watch every second of it, but it was good to watch.
Your fourth down attempts, you had two go for over 20 yards, a third go for a touchdown. What do you like about your play calls on those plays, and how important was that after the fourth down attempt in the previous game?
Yeah, I just credit I think our guys handled those really, really well. I felt like, when we know, Mike does a great job when we know we have an opportunity to go for fourth down, we can play third down a little bit different and put ourselves in the most favorable fourth down situation we can. And our guys did a phenomenal job. Big plays on all three.
How much does Gallup's return impact the coverage that CD gets, do you think?
Well, CD went inside. He played a little bit more slot this week, and so obviously Michael went back outside. We'll be able to play with those guys throughout the season, play them in a bunch of different positions. You guys know Michael. Michael's an awesome, awesome player. He's done some phenomenal things, and he hopped right in there and made plays. So not surprised.
Five trips to the red zone, 5 touchdowns. Be remiss not to ask you about what you think the difference was in terms of just the execution in that area.
Just say I think our guys executed really, really well down there. We ran the ball, we threw the ball, kind of did both, and I think our guys just kind of kept chipping away as we got in that red zone, and we were able to score touchdowns at the end. Dak made a phenomenal throw against a cover zero pressure. CD had 2 touchdowns in there. Zeke grinded out 2 runs. Thought our guys did a really, really good job.
The lefty throw to CD, it clearly was beautiful, and he anticipated. How well is Dak throwing and playing right now?
He's throwing really, really well. I just think he's very decisive. He knows exactly what he wants, and he's playing very, very confident and in command.
You said you don't want to be Gadget City. Mike said something similar earlier. How do you balance that, and how often do you find yourself saying, "No, Kellen, enough of that. Get back over here to the nuts and bolts"?
I think that's always the balancing act. You're trying to, there's a creative side that, you want to do new things, evolve, and all those sorts of things. At the same time, there's things that you've repped a lot of times, and can you throw a little flavor on it? There's only so much time on our week standpoint as well, and so there's plenty of times we put plays on the call sheet, and by Tuesday night they get axed a few, take a few off, just because you're trying to find the spots that we can actually rep them in a practice or a walkthrough and feel comfortable with them for Sunday. So that's part of the week's process.
On your play sheet, do you keep them in a separate section, or are they a part of your third and long and third and shorts and all that kind of stuff?
They're just part of our offense. Yep.
We know you're watching Kansas City's defense and not the offense, but when you get a chance to see Patrick Mahomes on Sunday Night Football or whatever, as a fellow quarterback, what do you appreciate about him?
I think his confidence. Obviously, everyone knows his ability to throw the football, but I just think his confidence and command of the offense. The whole thing runs through him, and I think he's a very, very confident player out there, and you can definitely see it. I think he's a guy that guys love watching.
I talked Friday about the bingo that he did with the players, having some of the guys come up and share different things about the team. Is that something that all the coaches are in the room for as well? And if so, how does that change the tone of the room or the culture?
I would say it's in team meetings, so obviously everyone, a part of the team's in it, coaches included. I think it's just an opportunity for guys to continue to connect, get to know people off the field. We do different things throughout the year, whether it's in season, OTAs, training camp. I think you're always trying to find opportunities to connect as a team, and sometimes someone shares something that you didn't know about them, and it maybe sparks a conversation for someone.
I think only 3 teams in the league have attempted more fourth downs than you, and a couple of those haven't played in the game, or played more games. Beyond just the individual plays, what does that go to setting an aggressive mentality and attitude that carries beyond just what happens in that particular moment?
Definitely think it gives I think guys are prepared for it. It's not really a shock. It's not a surprise when we go for it on fourth down. It's not this big dramatic moment. It's part of our philosophy. Mike's done an awesome job all year giving us that opportunity to go for it on fourth down. We understand when we can play third down like second down, and so really you can play it out for four downs there, and I think our guys are able to play that way. Dak's able to play that way as a quarterback, knowing, hey, you don't need to get all of it right now. 3rd and 7, take whatever they give you. We'll play it out on fourth down if we need to, and I think they do a really good job of that.
Does it lead to better decision making?
Or is that what football is?
What's that?
Does that feel to you like a fad, or do you think that's what the NFL is now?
I'd like to think that's what the NFL is. I think you got as many opportunities to score. You got to take advantage of those. You got to score points in this league, in my opinion. Obviously, I'm biased. I'm an offensive guy, but this thing's about scoring points.
Do you think it leads to better decision making overall on third down when you know that, okay, well, I can take this because I just don't have to?
I definitely think it allows us to play third down differently, and from the play calling, but also from just the players playing that, and obviously Dak's kind of the primary aspect of that, just making great decisions with it. That 3rd and 8 is not. We need 8 plus yards, and we need the 9-yard completion. We can take the underneath. We can take the completion. If you get a run and catch and run, awesome. We get a first down. If not, it's 4th and 2. We're going for it. So.
John McHugh played a lot more this second game back from IR. How do you feel he's settling in and just projecting him moving forward?
Doing a great job, obviously working his way back into this thing. He got hurt, obviously, at Arizona in preseason, and he's kind of working his way back into this thing, more and more reps, and we felt really, really good about him coming out of training camp, and we're excited to have him now a part of this thing.
Thanks, Cole.
Awesome, thanks.
We start just by walking us through the punt block and then also the aspect of Nashon Wright, who was involved in a negative play last week, being there to kind of that quickly.
Yeah. Right at the end of the half, I think it was first down. I think we sacked him and knocked him back 5 to 10 yards. And I thought Coach McCarthy did a great job using timeouts to give us a chance to, get a stop on second down, a third down, and force them to punt it. So, we had one dialed up that we were going to call whenever it was the next punt return opportunity. So it just happened to work out that they were backed up a little bit and pretty opportune time to rush. And then for Nashon to recover it, you can't make this up. Just the next week he has a chance at redemption, I guess you could call it, even though last week I don't consider it an error. But for him to find the ball again, just, shows he's got a little nose for the football. And great for him to get his hands on it and, score a touchdown. Probably not something he anticipated happening for himself on punt return. But like we told everybody, everybody's live and everybody's a player and everybody stay alive.
That was the only rep for Dorrance on punt return all game. Is that a rush that specifically you wanted him in for, and if so, why?
We have an army of guys on punt return that we'll use here and there, and we just called on him for that one. So try to just use pretty much the whole roster. And guys that are pretty good at that stuff, you like to have them, rush some punts. And guys that aren't, you like to have them do it too, just to break some tendencies. So, he got his call, he got a shot, and he produced. Great rush by him.
After the game, and then again, a little while ago, Mike McCarthy has talked about how the last few games, the best part of the team or the most consistent part has been the special teams. How would you evaluate it over the last few games?
I think yesterday, guys played really hard. The good thing I think for myself is that we're not out there trying to manufacture or force big plays. We just go in with what we think is a pretty simple and sound game plan. And, the guys have done a good job executing. It's really not much more complicated than that. Last week, the Denver game, I think, we had a pretty nice kickoff return and we had the punt block, but we felt like the kick return could have been bigger and the punt block we could have done something with. So there was a little sense of disappointment at Denver week, just like, we could have done something just a little bit more to maybe turn that game around. So I think every game is new, and one of our mojos last week was spaceships don't have rear view mirrors. And so that was something that will probably apply to this week, because Kansas City's really good on special teams. They have been for a long time. So we've already discussed this previous game, and we're really looking forward to this week. I know that's coach speak and all that, but.
Did you have any role in the monkey butt motivation?
I had none. No, coach surprised us with it, so I was surprised when he first talked about it too. Like, you go, coach, all right. And we all get it.
Or did he, was it in PowerPoint? How did he?
PowerPoint, I think he passed around the locker room a little bit. So yeah, it was a good one. Any little thing like that it's always fun, especially on a bounce back week.
You gathered the group, how much will you talk about that fake punt Kansas City did last night?
Yeah, that was it's a good one. We've it's kind of not a typical one, but it's used around the league quite a bit. We've done it in our past, and Kansas City did it this year, yesterday, and they did it last year one time. Another team did it earlier this year. I can't remember who it was, but yeah, it's just throwing it to a receiver over there who's a gunner, and it's hard to stop because as a blocker you're anticipating the gunner going, and so you're in a foot race, and all of a sudden the guy stops. You're like, oh, it happens just like that. So Kansas City is a good matchup for us, and we got some good players too. So I'm looking forward to it.
You mentioned not wanting to manufacture or force anything. On the flip side of that, when you've had a block 2 weeks in a row, do you have to fight kind of a hot hand theory of, hey, we're on a roll, let's do it again, or not?
That's a good question. We're kind of game planning right now, to be honest with you. I'm halfway through kind of our punt return, kick return plan. I think the biggest thing for me is to make sure that if you get one and you get another one and you get home and you kind of strike gold once or twice, so you don't get too complex or cute and fancy and try to be over creative. What do the guys do best? What do we sense as a possible area to attack? And let's find a way to do it in pretty simple terms. mid-November now, our meetings are cut down a little bit more, practice time's cut down a little bit more, and so I think our game plan maybe has to reflect that just a little bit to keep it simple, sound. The guys are excited about executing it without having to think about it too much. Because on the punt return side, one thing that's happened that I'm probably the most proud of, more than the blocker, is our communication and our substitutions. Because there's moving parts on punt return when it goes from third down to first down. Okay, you were ready. Third down to first down. All of a sudden, third down to fourth down, and guys are taking the field, and it's very loud, and bodies are coming from everywhere. And so just the communication, getting lined up, executing the call, everybody being assignment right, because all 8 guys got to be right for one guy to come free. So there's a lot of moving parts, and I think we've handled that pretty good the last couple of weeks.
Yesterday, there was only one punt in the punt return in the fourth quarter, and CD was out with an arm injury, and Cedric watching him because of his injury. So was Trayvon under strict instructions, don't touch the ball, whatever?
No.
It ended up being a touchdown.
Yeah, we had.
And will you change things in terms of like backup punt return, guys getting stuff this week just in case?
Yeah. Trayvon Diggs was back there because he does ball drills every day with us, and Tony Pollard is another option who's got great ball skills. So we really are pretty fortunate to have 4 guys that we could go back there and feel very confident they're going to catch punts. The challenge this past week was a lefty punter. It was our first one we played, so we put the jugs last week on the lefty spin because it's way different. So all those guys come out for ball drills every Wednesday, Thursday, pre and post practice, and I can't say enough about the players' work ethic. Just doing those little things right now to always be prepared as the 3rd or 4th punt return, and all of a sudden you're in the game.
How effective is the lefty mode on the jug machine? I remember in the past, team coaches, they'll bring in a lefty on like a tryout basis just to give their guys a look at it. How effective is the jug?
Yeah, it's semi-effective. There's nothing better than a live football coming off the foot of a lefty. Probably with all the COVID protocols, it's harder to get a punter in here just to punt out at practice for the returners. But the lefty jugs it's valuable because it gives you the spin and the aerodynamics of the point comes down. It's going to my right. The nose stays up, it's going to my left, which is opposite of a right-footed punter. So just to be able to see that and feel that is valuable for sure.
Was CD close a couple of times, or is that the nature of every punt return is kind of close a little bit?
Yeah, it seems like that, huh? It's like, oh man, just one more. But I think it was the second one where he kind of ran up the middle and the snapper kind of got him and one more guy. And if we could just get through that one more crease, then there'd have been a lot more green grass. But you're always like, oh man, it's just one more guy. And it seemed like that's a lot. There's 10 guys you got to block if you don't count the punter and the kicker. And to get to them all is hard, but that's pretty close. Yeah.
What's the feeling in the room like when Mike is leading his bingo exercises, and what have you learned about your players through those?
I'm sorry, the
Bingo exercises when he's picking some.
the Brotherhood. Yeah. It's great. It's pressure packed because nobody knows whose name is getting called, and the guys really kind of have to be a little bit mentally prepared to share something about themselves. And when they're not, there's a little bit of stage fright, but it's a great public speaking experience for the players because they're in front of their peers, and so if they mess up or they forget something to say, then everybody can kind of razz them and it's all good. But it is a fun thing to do, just to break up the week and get to know the teammate a little better.
Cedric, the only snap that he had was during the red zone package where he took the direct snap. Was that kind of the plan? Is that he'd be essentially almost off limits, except from that, or he wouldn't be used on special teams? What was the role going into the game?
Yeah, my understanding was he was going to be an emergency guy. We really didn't anticipate using him on special teams, just to make sure that we got him and could use him as the offense needed in emergency. But it was really great to not really need him, give him another week just to rest up. As far as I know, he's pretty darn fine, and obviously went in the game. But just give him another week was great. We had 6 receivers dressed, and for us on special teams, using Noah and Malik in a really heavy lifting, valuable way. It's just such a huge bonus. Those guys have been great. So when Cedric's back, we'll definitely use him on teams.
Lerum, you guys didn't have him do any field goals, but his kickoff game where it was touchbacks all afternoon going against Cordero Patterson. How significant was that in terms of what you guys were putting on his plate for that game?
Yeah, that was significant because Cordero he'll back up 9 deep and bring him out. So we were gonna try to back him up as far as he could. If he wanted to bring him out, he was gonna have to bring him out deep. And I thought Liram did a great job with the kickoffs. And then, he made 6 PATs, and I told Liram this morning, a PAT is not what a PAT used to be. It's a mid-range field goal. So I told Liram, hey, you were 6 for 6 on 33-yard field goals. That's what it is, really. So I was really proud of the way he produced in his first ever NFL action. It's cool to see him get a shot.
Greg, of course, the return, Liram goes back to the practice squad now. Do you want to have 2 kickers in your building, or how do you foresee that going?
Yeah, I think that would be great. I leave that up to Coach and Will McClay for sure. But I think having 2 just in case something happens would be great. And Liram did a great job, and he's been here twice before, so he fits in great with the guys. And obviously when he gets called upon, he did a good job. So I'm really, really happy for him. And his route to get here and to finally get a chance is really cool to witness as it's happening.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks.